Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the second episode of the live show with Musart. Today I have a very special guest. Her name is Nazma Khatoon, who is a business coach and a mindset coach. But before I introduce you to her and show you her story, I want you to see her My Why. Now let's go watch the video.
My why? Because my big dreams kept keeping me awake at night, and I really needed to get some beauty sleep. Because creativity and I, we were born to be together, and frankly, conforming to the system made lovers' hearts bleed. Because boss TikTok doesn't make for good master and I slave. Rather, time be my ally, serve me well. Because being square gets awkward fitting into that round hole. Because freedom isn't something I wanted to look out at from the office window during the daily great lunch escape. Because independence and the weekly stats reports, they just wouldn't get on, and to be fair, I got fed up of being referee. Because daydreaming is a great pastime and working smart, not just hard, makes great sense. Because my mind shrivels. Literally pea-sized, incy, pincy, teeny, weeny. Knowledge and learning is its food. The foodie in me was never as satisfied as now. Fat minds rule. Because creativity thrives in shackle-free minds, and money, it doesn't take prisoners lightly. I am an entrepreneur because my whys are something you may all know a little about. They came in 2 small packages and changed my world. They came like light that echoed bright at times of pitched darkness. My whys pierced through the windy storms, and here I am at shore. When abuse, violence, tears and fear casted shadows upon my soul, my whys whispered to me through large brown eyes, teething tears, toddling toes, giggling, glowing growth. And now my why is sleepless nights, tantrums, heartbreak and heartwake, laughter, growth and imagination so explosive I sometimes wonder if I ever knew life before them. My whys challenge me, motivate me, inspire me, compel me, change me. My whys make me better, be greater, aim higher, never give up, stand tall, fly high, face the world with faith, and make me truly believe in I. I am an entrepreneur because I was blessed with my why twice.
Welcome back. Now let me introduce you to Nazma Khatoon. Assalamu alaikum, Nazma.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for taking your time out today. I know you've had a very long journey, and I really appreciate it. Your story, mashallah, the day I heard it, it's been playing in my mind. Like, subhanallah, you've been through so much. So I know some of your journey that you told me that brought you to being a business coach.
Okay.
But now, can you share it with the viewers, please?
Yes, of course. So I'm at. Where would you like me to start? Do you want to start about?
I want you to start first of all, like what made you to be where you are today? What steps did you take?
Okay.
What challenges did you have?
Okay.
So let's start with what is it that made your mindset that, yes, this is what I want to do.
Okay.
But before that, I want to know, how were you as a person?
Okay.
When did the mindset relapse happen?
Okay. So if you look at me today,
Yes.
I'm a single mom.
Yes.
I've got my own photography business, and I also do the business coaching.
Yes, mashallah.
And I'm a qualified psychotherapist, but it didn't come easily.
Yes, of
so
course.
if you go back, say about 10, maybe 12 years ago, I was married. I got married quite young when I was in my 20s, and I was married for 10 years.
Yes.
And initially it was okay, but then I started to experience domestic abuse.
Yes.
And
100%.
it was all of them, from psychological abuse to violence, to emotional abuse. And that went on for a cascading of about 10 years, on and off, on and off. And I think the turning point was, I think it came to me over a period of time rather than just a one day. But I remember a significant event that happened that really made me realise that I need to stand on my own two feet. So my daughter had been born, and my daughter had a lot of illnesses when she was born. She had quite severe eczema, and she had colic, and my ex-husband was very, very abusive during the time. So I had postnatal depression, and she was probably about 6 months, maybe 8 months old. And then one day I had gone to visit my mum,
Yes.
and I came back to the house. I put my key in, and I couldn't get back in the house. So I'm thinking, what's going on? What's going on? There had been incidents before that, and that led up to me going to my mum's. I needed a break. I went for a
Yes.
week. I came back, and he'd made me homeless. So I'm there with an 8-month-old baby, thinking, what do I do now? You know, like my whole life just kind of flashing by.
So he just changed the locks?
He just locked me out. Yeah, he locked it from the inside, and I couldn't.
He
get
didn't
back
give
in
you
my
any
own
warning
home.
or anything? Like,
No, nothing. But it was kind of, I think, for when you're going through abuse, people like abusers particularly, they like control.
yes.
So what had happened was I had been working previous to my baby being born. And so I had a maternity pay, and then that was running out, and so I needed to rely on him for finances at this point. And I was doing my counselling at the same time, and I was doing it part-time. I'd been doing it over several years to try and get to my qualification as a psychotherapist. And it was the third year, I think. And I asked him for some money. I said, like, it's September's coming, and could you fund it this year? And he said no. So I was very upset. I was like, but all this time I've been earning, I earned more than him.
Yes.
And I just felt shocked and I was upset. So I said, okay, can you at least, then my car insurance came. Sorry, my road tax, it was my road tax, was £70. And I said, could you pay that? And he said no. And I thought, I'm getting suffocated from every side now, because if I can't go out,
financially, emotionally.
yeah, it was just escalating now.
Oh my gosh.
So I said, okay, I'm going to go to my mum's. I needed to get away, and I went for a week. I come back a week later, and I'm locked out.
So do you think he just did this because you were becoming demanding? You just were not demanding, but you were asking for your rights, basically. So
It isn't that. When what happens with abuse is it starts off on a smaller scale.
yeah, I remember you saying.
And then the stronger you get, the more control there is. So now it was a kind of like I didn't have the financial means to do things, so he had that element to leverage further
Make it
abuse.
worse, basically.
Yeah.
So then, what did you do then? What did you do after that?
So I had a choice. I was a vice chair on a charity, so I had options to go into a refuge. They would have been provide that for me. But something in me, it was in that moment. But before that, I would always beg. I would always want him to stay. No matter what he did, I wouldn't go back to anybody. I wouldn't tell anyone. But there was something in my dignity in that moment, and I was holding my baby, and I thought, you can go through something.
yes,
But when it's your child,
yeah,
everything changes.
of course.
And I thought, no, she deserves better. And in me, it was this idea of either I go to a refuge or I do something for myself now. And so I rang a distant relative, and I looked for a house within those few hours, literally. I went to an estate agent, and I said, look, I need a house, and how much is it? They said it's £500 deposit, and then £500 or £600 a month.
So you had no money at that
I
time?
have no money. He's got my paperwork, so I have no way of getting a house. I've not been in work, and because I've not been financially looking after myself, I've not got any bills or anything in my name. So it's happened slowly.
You have no
no identity
yeah,
almost.
exactly. Yeah.
And I remember calling this relative, and I said, look, you have a good job. Could you secure the house
Yes.
for me, and I'll pay you back? So I get the house. A couple of days later, he does it for me. Alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah, I get that help. And then I'm in this house. I have an 8-month-old baby, and it's getting dark because the first night I'm in there. And during the day, I went and bought a second-hand mattress, and I went and bought some blankets and things. I had
daily essentials.
Yeah, and I had a piggy bank that I'd taken. I don't know why I had thought of this. When I went to my mum's,
Yeah.
I took my daughter's piggy bank, and it had like £79 in it. I still remember.
Oh my god! So you used that to pay for the.
That's what I used to pay for the mattress and the bedding.
Wow.
And so it got to night time, and I, not being kind of emotionally stable at the time, I went to put on the lights, and I thought, oh, they're not working. So I thought, oh, then maybe there's no bulbs. And there's bulbs in there. And I'm thinking, how come it doesn't work? And then I realised I tried to put on other things in the house, and it doesn't work. and I realised there's no electricity. And so I remember those first few weeks, I think it was, before I could get any electricity, before I could, because it takes time, because I don't have
Yes.
no paperwork.
Yes.
I couldn't sign up anywhere, so I needed agencies to get involved to help me to try and sort that out and
Yeah.
say, hey, this lady's not getting the paperwork, so we need to. But I remember the street light would come in, and I'd use that light for me and my daughter, and we only had the clothes that I'd taken to my mum's. So I think I had like two abayas.
But didn't you and your mum or anybody come and help you?
No, I think there's so much stigma, and
Didn't your mum ask why has he done this? Didn't they try to go and reconcile with him and say, look, can you let her come in?
No. And I think it's partly because, not because to blame our,
Yes.
our elders. I think it's the stigma attached, and maybe she thought, okay, if we don't get involved, then he'll understand, because it happens so often in other ways. She probably thought, oh, it's going to get resolved, and they didn't see it. They just kept brushing it under the carpet. And I think abusers as well, they have. He was charming. He was good looking. He warmed everybody. He was a community person. He was practicing, and so my brother, my mum adored him. So for them to believe that this could have been happening was a huge thing, because I wasn't telling anyone.
Yeah.
And that's part of the psychological,
Yeah, you just want to break his image as well. So you was thinking,
yes.
if I say that, A, they might not believe me, and B, it's just going to make him look bad. And then if I have any success of going back to him,
Yeah.
I've ruined that already. So it just makes that in your head, isn't it? Like, oh, okay, if I say that, then it's just going to make things worse. And then what happened?
So it was supposed to get better, but it got worse. So then I'm in the house, it's Ramadan. I finally managed to get everything sorted, start to get on benefits, and then I get a message to my brother from the family to say, can you, she can come back, but she has to move in with my family, which is my in-laws, because we were living separately.
Yes.
Although we were in one of their properties, we were in a separate house. And I knew in that moment that the abuse was just going to get 100 times worse, because for him to
it wasn't him alone involved. Now it's going to be a few others.
Yeah. And he actually stipulated that when she comes back in, she's going to have to listen to everything that my parents say and abide by everything that my parents say. And I thought, okay. And I think the mistake that was made was that nobody went with me when we went back as well. My brother kind of said, look, they're asking. And I said to my brother, look, they're going to harm me. They're going to harm my daughter. And he was like, no, nobody can be that bad. Not knowing like the extent.
Yeah, plus that they're going to say they're probably saying, oh, that's his daughter. He wouldn't do that. Why would he do that? So,
Yeah. And I remember that Eid, I went myself, and I took gifts, and I said, look, I'd like to come back. And within a couple of days, we were back. But the mercy was that the house had a 6-month lease. So they said, get rid of the house. And I said, well, I can't until 6 months. But I was living with them. And
so you were paying the rent at the same time?
The rent was still going, because I wanted to see him. And I had a social worker who said to me, just leave it for now. Move in and see, because they obviously know things that when people are in abuse, I know now, I'm out of it. But when you're in the abuse, you don't see the things that are going to happen. You're just so absorbed. And I'm glad I took her advice, because we moved in, and I remember all the furniture and everything that was in the house, they just literally took it out. They broke we had a TV back then. They broke that. They took all my furniture. They just put it into their house. It was like I didn't exist, and I knew what they were doing. And like my books got destroyed. It was just
that's just abuse. That's just like mental abuse, really.
Yeah,
they destroyed all your things from your husband's home.
They took it all. They put it into their house, so they just fitted it into their home
and just destroyed it.
And whatever they didn't want, they just destroyed. And then while we were there, I had to seek permission from him before I could speak to. I had to seek permission from his parents before I could speak to him. Yeah, they used to have family meetings where.
Why do you need permission to speak to your husband?
Yeah.
God, then.
Because it's just psychological abuse. It's just a way to monitor.
Yeah.
I mean, even the clothes.
When you'd ask permission, what would they say? Yeah, go ahead and speak to him, or would they just make it worse?
It was just. I didn't ask. It was just kind of an unsaid, like, if you want to talk to him, ask us first. If you want to go out, you need to ask us. They took, I didn't have access to a mobile. I asked if I could have a mobile. They said no.
You couldn't speak to your family?
No, nothing.
No friends?
Oh my God. Nobody came, because they know not to.
If they got involved. They didn't want to get involved, basically.
Yeah.
Then what happened?
And then I think we stayed there. I don't know if it was a few months. I can't quite remember. And one morning I wake up and I see my brother downstairs. And he's really upset and he says, "Get your stuff." And I said, "How do you mean get my stuff?" And he said, "Just pack it." So I remember his sister handing me black bags, bin bags, to put some of the stuff in. So I managed to get a few things. And my brother said, "Just leave it. You can pick it up tomorrow." So I was confused at this point. And then I said to my brother, "What's going on?" And they says, "Oh, they want you out of the house and they're looking getting towards a divorce." At this point, it didn't really hit me. I just knew that I was being kicked out again.
You just thought, okay, it's just what he used to do before.
Yeah.
But how did you cope? How were you sleeping there? How were you living?
So
if you want to get something for your daughter, how was that?
So they would keep my daughter's stuff in the shoe cupboard. They had it was a big house, and so they had stairs that went through the side of the house and a massive hallway. It was like a detached. It was a big house, and so the clothes would be kept under there. I think they put us in a room where I could barely just about open the door. So it had the bed and then the cot, and then I could just get in. And if for example, because my issue was she had eczema and things like that, they had other babies in the house. His sister had a baby, and I think his brother's baby was born then as well. And if we needed to use, for example, the changing table, then my mother-in-law would say, "No, no, no, you can't use it. We need to put a mat down," and spoons would have to be separated. And if my
What?
daughter needed, yeah, because it was all
You don't even
about.
do that to an animal. Like, okay, you do it to an animal, but like human beings, why are you separating the cutlery as well? That's just
Yeah.
going way overboard.
Yeah.
And then they would put a sheet down, like you said.
Yeah, and it just escalated. That's just what we went through, for weeks and weeks
And
of
was
it.
Maisha suffering eczema at the time? Is
Yeah.
that why they were saying you need to put a sheet down?
Yes.
And then I'm just surprised. How did you take that? What was you just
I
quiet?
didn't say anything, sis. I was just. I'm. You're looking at a different person today.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah. I know it's hard to believe,
No,
but
of course. No, it's
I
not hard to
didn't
believe.
speak back. I didn't say anything. All I would do is go in my room and cry. And I think it was a mercy from Allah that they called my brother that day.
Yeah.
When I look back. And then when we came back to pick the stuff up the second day, um, my mother-in-law wouldn't let me in the house. She said, "Oh, you can't come in." I said, "But you said that we could come and get our stuff." And she said, "Oh, your stuff's out there." And I didn't even see. And they just packed my car with all my belongings. And I remember trying to drive this micro out. It was a tiny little micro, blue one, I remember. And I could just about get in, and I'm tiny. So that's how much. And when I came to unpack, this bit really hurt. Like when I came to unpack my daughter's things, there was the dirty bowls from the morning that they just put in, and
How
the clothes that
evil.
had been in the wash. They just kind of dumped it all in. Anything just to kind of get rid of us.
Astaghfirullah.
So,
So you went home and did you go back to the same place where you were renting?
yes.
So how long did you stay there with them?
Oh, I can't remember. A number of months, I think it was.
So you're lucky that you still had that backup there.
Yeah.
So what was your husband's response in all this? Was he not saying, "Don't go, I want to look after my daughter"?
No.
Nothing.
No. He didn't make any contact after we left the second time. He didn't make contact for about a year.
Didn't you have your? Then he made a sorry. You had after a year later he made contact with you again.
Yes.
Saying what?
So a year later, he came back and he said, "I want to try again."
So how were you coping for a whole year without finance? Was you just doing benefits again?
I was on benefits, and it was probably the best thing that could have happened to me. I built my strength. I started to understand abuse. I started to look after my daughter. I was getting
Were you feeling better and
feeling better,
being more stronger and accepting things? Yeah.
confident
Yeah.
in myself and my abilities.
Yeah.
I managed to get onto my counselling course.
Oh, mashallah.
So I was doing a lot of things for me that I had never done before.
So a year later, he contacts you.
Yeah.
What does he say?
He wants to reconcile.
Okay.
And again,
Was
I
he
went
actually being sorry? Was he actually apologetic?
He apologised, and I actually went to the family and said, "Look, could you intervene?" And they said, "Oh, we don't want to shame a person. If he's come back, then leave him." And I think that adds to an abuser's. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I think they kind of play on that.
Yeah, they just think, okay,
She got no
if
one.
I can just go back and it'll be the same again.
Yeah.
I don't really need to show that I feel bad, so it just gives them a bit of a confidence, like you
Yes.
said.
Yes.
Then,
And
so
he
you
came
believed
back.
him.
Yeah, well, my brother said, you know what, we don't want to make anyone feel bad. Think about your daughter. I was in a different mindset, and I thought, okay, I'll give this guy, I'll give him
A chance.
a chance to see he might have changed because it's
Yes.
been a year. Um, to cut a long story short, I ended up having my other daughter. By the end of the pregnancy, I started to see the signs of abuse again. So although he kind of managed it for about 9 months,
So he
10
was
months,
abusing you while you're pregnant again, second time.
just around the end. So he managed to keep the persona up to about
So
7
how was
months.
your relationship then? Were you getting back? Were you much better than before? Were you improving your relationship? I'm sure you said he was a counsellor as well.
So he started counselling, but he didn't finish it because part of counselling is to be able to look at yourself and
Yeah,
your.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, he didn't do the
So I'm just thinking, if
exams.
he has that mindset, that
No,
counselling, does he not understand how to treat a woman?
no.
So what kind of abuse did he give you towards the end?
So in the end, I started to see the verbal abuse come through.
Right.
Things like, I remember one incident I had to go to the hospital because I had some complications at the end, and the hospital hadn't given me the time. So I'd rang up because I've already had one pregnancy. I was quite confident with this pregnancy. They said, "Oh, don't come in," and then later they rang me saying, "We've looked at your history. We need you in." We were out that day. I remember being at a park. And I said, "Oh, the hospital have called me to go in." He said, "When did you know this?" I said, "I rang them this morning, but they didn't want to see me, so they're asking to see me now." And he just lost it. He just went, "You don't tell me things. I'm not going to take you," and I could see the patterns kicking in, kicking in, kicking in, and then by the time I think my second child, was 9 months, all the threats started again. Some of the behaviours started again.
And see, so like, what is he just making you feel down in yourself?
He was it's the verbal abuse,
Yeah, like
it's
just
calling
making
you
you
calling
calling you
you
names.
names. There was other things in his character as well, so that kicked in again. So in the end, I just thought, okay, what do I do now? He's everything he's promised.
It's just fallen
It's
apart.
just there's nothing there. He
Yeah.
hasn't sustained it for more than 18 months,
Yeah.
and then he threatened to leave again. But this time, when he threatened to leave, something in me was like, if you go again and you
That's
do
it. You're
this
not
to
come
these
back.
children, and I was in a better position because the house was I was renting, and I had the benefits in mind, like I had things, and since he came back, I didn't let that slip this time. I made sure that I've
It was a
got things
consistency.
in my name, and just to protect myself a little bit. So if he was going, I had that sense of like, I can cope. I've done it before, I can do it again. So he went that time, and that was it. Really, I said
He's never
no,
come back.
no. I've never allowed it.
Has he tried again?
A
Obviously.
couple of times, but within 4 months he remarried anyway. So
Has he not come back for the kids at least?
no, we had to go through a. So what happened in the end was, I tried to get him to see the children over a number of years, to be
Yeah.
honest. Lots of different parties got involved. It didn't get settled. So in the end, I said to him, look, go to the courts. Well, at least then you'll pick them up on time, go to
Yeah.
time, because you're not communicating with
Yeah.
me. Let's do it that way.
Yeah.
But when he got to the courts, he told the courts that I had mental health problems. So it was at that point that I'd been through the divorce. He'd got remarried. I going through a hell of a time trying to get him to see the kids. It was on and off, on and off, on and off, and it was just draining me. And I'd just become a single mum with 2 kids. My other one was still just 9 months.
Yeah.
It was a lot to handle. I was really depressed back then. Again, I had a lot of anxiety, and so when it got to the courts and he said that, I panicked. And I was like, okay, what if they take my children off me? Because he's saying I've got mental health problems. And when you've been systematically abused, you believe what they tell you.
Yeah.
So
You
if
think,
he's,
yeah, maybe he's right.
yeah, and I believed that there's something wrong with me. So I then rang the courts and I said, look, I need to tell you guys that I have been abused for the last 10 years and these are the things that have been happening. And that's when I disclosed. And it was only at that point that, because he'd pushed so far, that I
But you had to show
disclosed.
this reality
I
and
had
say,
to
look,
show, and then a full investigation was done. It ended up going to court. and he was found guilty. He was charged for 6 charges of assault, and he got found guilty on 4 of them.
Wow.
So yeah.
Did you not? How did you feel after? Did you feel like a sigh of relief that yes?
You know, I made dua to Allah because I kind of covered it up for those periods of time because I just kept thinking Allah will deal with it, and I didn't want to shame. You know, he's the father of my children, and I didn't want it to be something that my children would look back at. I wanted it to kind of leave it to Allah, and then when that happened, I just thought there's never going to be a time this person's going to give up. So when it went to court, my dua was, oh Allah, let the truth be known, but not for him to go, because he could have got sentenced for like 5 years for the charges, and I didn't want that. Not for him, but as a Muslim,
Yes.
I didn't want that. And
Yes.
as for the sake of my children, for their father to be locked up, I didn't want that. So I kept making dua, oh Allah, let it be found, but don't let it get to that extent.
Yes.
You know, and that wasn't for him. That was something in me.
Yeah.
I didn't want to lose that part of me that I tried to hold on to throughout the marriage. You know,
Yeah.
the goodness and to think good of him.
Yeah.
And so he wouldn't admit it. You know, there was, my car got broken into. There was lots of like fear tactics gone on during the court case. He completely denied it. He said he's never done it. He's never done it. He's never done it. And then I got up. I remember I got up, and then there was so much evidence that the solicitor actually took him aside and said, "Look, either you plead
Admit it.
guilty, or you're going to be on the stand next, and then the jury get to, you know."
Yeah.
He did get found guilty, but we've got 2 years restraining order and a lifetime on his record. And for me, that's the relief, because one of the things, anybody who's been going through abuse, and this is something that the police officer said to me that really hit me, is that abuse is the hardest thing in court to prove.
Yes.
Because you're protecting the abuser.
Yes, it's true. Lots of women do it. They're just too scared to open up and say so and so's abuse because they're worried it's their partner and they're worried they're gonna lose a home. And it's just it's the whole, like you said, it's emotional abuse
You're
as well, and
losing your life.
it's the confidence as well, and it's just the confidence that goes that's from here that just gets pushed down, 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 and then you come to a stage that you're so scared you don't want to say anything. So so after he was pleaded guilty and he was sentenced, what happened after that? So how was your mindset when you went home that day?
I remember getting the call. It was a couple of days later, and I remember getting the call and thinking, it's over. Like, the secrets aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm a very introverted person. I'm not a big community person. I'm not the type of person you're going to meet on the street and say, hey, how are you? I'm not like that. And I knew that there was so much stigma. And I thought to myself, it wasn't for me, it was for my daughters.
Yeah.
So that they know that right is right and wrong is wrong. And
how were your daughters reacting to all this? What was how old was Maisha at the time?
oh, she was still very young. She was still, I mean, Maisha's 8 now. So she was probably about 5 or 6.
So was she was probably confused what's going on.
Well, with my children, I never really told them they don't have a dad. I didn't say anything. If they wanted to talk about their dad, that was fine. If he didn't come for them, I'd say, he's not, maybe he's busy, and I would make excuses, because at the end of the day, they are not to blame, and I'm not going to poison them. Like, I don't want them to think anything of him. He has a choice to see them. If he wants to see them, he can see them tomorrow. That for me was never an issue. As long as he's consistent and he protects them and all of those things, that's his responsibility with Allah.
So you went home that evening when everything was over, the case was over. What was the first thing that you did? Was it just you got a phone call? Did you say?
I think I remember getting the news and just thinking, gosh, it's over. But what happened after that was all over social media was that they'd got off, and that meant I lied, and I thought, this cycle will never end. So I knew then that was another big milestone, that if you want to get through life, you have to focus on what you want and what you don't want.
Yeah.
You have to focus, and I knew in those years is, rather than thinking about what he did, why he did it, how he did, which I spent a lot of time doing. So
Yes,
don't
that
get me
happens.
wrong.
That happens. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I wanted to know is how did you get out of it? Because lots of women are suffering like that.
I made the decision. I made the decision that, you know what, I've got 2 things I can focus on. Either the past or a future that's not been created.
Yes.
And I get to create my future.
Yeah.
And whatever has happened has happened. Who do I want to be now? because I didn't know myself. I literally just didn't know my voice. I was frightened. I didn't travel anywhere. I didn't speak up. But my psychology helped a lot because I was doing the counselling in the background. So I was getting lots of help and peer
That's good,
support and things like that. So that was helping.
Allah makes ways, obviously.
Yeah.
So then you got to a stage where you wanted to make this a full-time income.
Okay.
What did you do with that? So how did you get to this level that you are today?
So again, I came online, I think it was only a couple of years ago, to be honest, and I started learning around things about like passive income. And again, as I said, I'm introverted, so most of my time I spend reading books,
Yeah.
listening to lectures, and I'm not like this person who will be on the WhatsApp groups for hours and hours
Yes,
and
yes.
talking to people. I'm not like that. I feel like if I look back at my life, all those hours, all that time spent on being sad
Yeah.
and crying and weeks in bed, and sometimes you're beaten up and you can't get up. And I've gone from that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala finding a way, how can I be grateful? So I went to that kind of thinking that, how can I be grateful? And I still had my daughter who was very, very sick. She would be in and out of hospital. Her body would bleed head to toe. I mean, she would sleep probably about 40 minutes a time, and then she'd be up for hours. And then she'd sleep, and we couldn't get her into school. She had attachment issues. So when you said how it affected,
Yeah.
it does affect. Maybe not like consciously she can't
But
say,
physically.
but physically and emotionally.
It's probably at the back of her head. So she's going to school and she's hearing about daddies and stuff like. Children start questioning things, don't they? They start saying, "Why don't I have a daddy?" Or they're maybe too scared to even. Whether they start thinking inside, and then the stress builds up and it can come out in different forms.
Yeah.
So, and like you said with the eczema, do you feel that she probably got it because she could feel the stress on you? Because sometimes they say the mother's stress can get passed on to the
Yeah.
child.
I think part of it is because, like now I homeschool. So while she was at school, her eczema was a lot worse. She's probably the best she's been now because of the fact that she's got the attachment with
Yes.
me.
And the comfort of the home
Yeah.
environment. Yeah, and so did you not have any friends and stuff? So like when you said like you started studying and stuff like that, didn't you ever feel lonely that I'm alone or
I had people I knew, but I think the stigma is so strong. I remember one friend saying to me, "Oh, because on the outside I'm working, I'm seemingly confident." So it was like, if that was me, I would have hit him back.
Yeah.
This kind of very,
It's easier
very
said than
naive.
done. It's easier said than done. Yeah.
Very naive kind of way to look at it. You hit somebody back, they're
What's
going to
that
hit you
gonna
back
do?
twice as hard.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
It's not the way to resolve things. So I think it was all of that. And when people have been through abuse, people they don't understand the intricacies.
So, mashallah, you've actually gone and got to a stage now where you've gone and spoken at events. You've been to Amsterdam.
Yes.
You've spoken in London. So we have a wonderful video to show what Nazma actually does.
So we act in certain ways and we behave in certain ways and we do certain things because we believe that other people will approve of us. And what we have to understand is that when we are outward, when we are constantly seeking the approval of others, we lose such a big part of ourselves because we are unique. Every single one of us was created so uniquely with intricacies that will add so much value to the world, to our families, to our communities, to our societies, to our businesses. But what we do is we shy away. We hold back our opinions. We hold back our ideas. We dress a certain way because we believe that people will accept us more because we dressed that way, we spoke that way, we hung around in certain circles, and therefore it gave us a sense of achievement. However, in entrepreneurship, and when you're going through life, you have to know that unless you find your voice, unless you are sure of who you are, the world and its negativity will kick in and you will end up giving up even before you start. Remember this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you unique. There's no one else in the world like you. So why are we trying to mimic other people? Why are we trying to do what others are doing? Because in the end, we can't be like them. Even if they're the greatest at something, we don't need to compete against them. We just need to find out what we're good at and do that. So when people ask me, How do you do it? How do you do it when you are a single mom and you have been through abuse, and when you have had nowhere to live and you had no support, and you did it in a community where divorce is so stigmatized? You know, how did you do it? It's not about the how, it's about the why. Why do we do the things we do? We need to shift our questions, we need to shift our perspectives and look at our reasons why. Because if your why is big enough, if your purpose and your intentions for showing up in the world is big enough, if you are going to say, why will I make these decisions? Why do I want to set up these businesses? Why do I want to be the best parent that I can be? Why do I want to show up in this world as a happier, more content person? Then, only then will things change. Because how is the technical stuff. The why is about the belief systems. And once our belief systems are good, once we can come from a place where we are sure of who we are and we know our own minds and we can make our own choices and we're not afraid of judgment, we're not afraid of failure, only then can we become the greatest versions of ourselves, and only then can we give back to our families, our communities, our societies, and ultimately leave something back for the world.
I hope you enjoyed that video. That video is just so powerful, sister. Now, amazing hearing about your journey, and then from like going to the rock bottom and then coming right to a level now that you're speaking in front of so many people. What brought that confidence?
You know, just doing it every day. I know that whenever we want to do something,
Yes.
the first sabotage is fear. And I have experienced so much fear in my life that now when it comes up, I think if I can get through that, Allah can get me through anything.
Yeah.
And I have that, I kind of put that
Yeah.
in. It doesn't mean that I'm not afraid,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. You know, I remember the first time I had to do my lives, I was really scared. And I used to have a lot of self-doubt, thinking, oh, if I say something, is it going to be valuable?
Yeah. Yes.
You know, or am I going to say it the right way? And then I just thought, but if I don't do it, then how do I ever know?
Yes.
How do we learn? We learn by trying
Yes.
and by experiencing. And if I don't experience, if I don't do, then it's not going to count for anything. And like I said, I wanted that quality of my life, but I wanted to do the things that I loved doing and not living a fake life anymore.
So then, what you so you started, you got into building a business for yourself, and now that much you can work around your kids, which is why we placed them. We played the my why at the beginning to show why you're doing it, and it's wonderful, isn't it? Now you can work around your children, and plus, mashallah, you also, like you said, you're homeschooling them, and you're teaching them, you know, things that. So actually, I want to ask you, why are you homeschooling them first of all? Wouldn't it be easier for you to have them at school? Well, I know the
of
first
course it
reason
would
was
be
because
easier.
Maisha has eczema, and you said it was because she was getting really bad, and obviously the way you can take care of and do her creams regularly, and you know, change her diet, and you know, take specific care. But what is the other reason?
You know, my children were in an Islamic school, and I put them in there because it was a smaller school. And what I find with the education system is that, you know, and I'm not criticizing the education system. I just know that there's a better. I feel like there's a better way for my children. So when what happens is the education system is built so that we create conformists, like, you know, structured to go into the working environment and then to do a certain job. And the world is changing so fast. If you look on the online space, you're on the online space.
Yes.
It's changing so fast. It's about creativity. It's about knowing who you are. And part of it was because I'm a psychotherapist, as you know, and I've been working with people probably about 7 years now. And what I'm finding is when I work with adults is all the undoing of the belief systems, and the belief systems are the core. Whatever you believe is what you show on the outside. So if you're saying I'm not getting results, then the first place I'm going to be looking at is what your mindset's at.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what actions you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're learning funnels. It doesn't matter if you're online. It doesn't matter if you're not getting where you're supposed to get. Usually there's something sabotaging, you know, some sort of belief system. And so I knew that with the schooling system, there's certain belief systems that they're going to get, and I didn't want that for the girls. I wanted them to be able to strengthen the things that they enjoyed the most.
How long have you been homeschooling?
I only started, to be honest, at the beginning of this year.
Okay.
So it's not been long.
So
But
how
I've
do you
been
manage
thinking
that
about
with
it.
such a business on the side? Like, how do you manage your time?
You know, subhanAllah, you know, people say that a lot, and it's not how, it's like I said on the video,
Yeah.
it's the why. Because if people come to me, like, for example, for business, and the first thing they want to know is how do we increase our revenues?
Yes.
And it's important, of
Yes,
course.
of course, yeah.
But before you can get to that, you have to have a desire. You have to have something in you that propels you every single day to wake up, because it's not easy. And human beings are habits. We're creatures of habits. And if our habits aren't right, it doesn't matter. The results are going to show by the accumulation of those habits. And if you look at the most wealthy, if you studied the books,
Yes,
Think
yes.
and Grow Rich
Yes,
is a
yes.
prime example of that book. If you look at the habits of the successful, they all wake up early.
Yes.
The Prophet ﷺ used to say that the blessings are in the early hours.
Yes.
So it's not so much how I do it, it's just working out where my priorities are and not being busy. You might think I'm busy. I'm actually not busy.
Really?
I'm actually really
I
relaxed.
would think your whole
Subhanallah.
I thought each minute would be planned accordingly throughout the day.
It is, but it's not. I'm not rushed, because how can I coach somebody if I'm rushed?
Yes.
If they're coming on the phone and I'm trying to help them, I'm like rushed. It's about prioritizing. The 80-20 rule. Do the 20% that gives you the 80% of the
Yes.
results. So, for example, homeschooling. I don't need to do all day, because at school the statistics show that a child probably learns, I think they said, about 90 minutes.
Is that it?
In the whole of the day.
90 minutes?
90 minutes
Children
of
are at school
actual
from 6
learning.
hours of the day?
Yeah.
And then what's the rest of the time going on?
They're shopping, they're going to lunch, they're settling in. So if I've got my children and I do 15-minute segments or 20 minutes on maths, English and science, they're going to get more than they would have done at school.
Yeah.
Plus they get the creative and the freedom.
And
to
not
then
just
do
that,
what
plus
they
you're
want.
giving your children that confidence as well from such a young age, which is why I want the audience to see such a wonderful video of Maisha, who is 8 years old. She's going to tell you how to be confident.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Maisha, and today I'm going to be talking about how to become confident. Now, I know everyone wants to become confident. Now, I'm going to give you 3 ways on how to become confident. Now, number 1 is, if someone is telling you that you're not confident, then that means if you think it a lot, and if they keep on telling you, then you'll get into your mind with everything that people have said to you. You mix it into a ball, and you'll just think it every day or every year, or I don't know. But you cannot think it. If someone tells you that you're not confident, then just say to them, "Excuse me, you're not confident yourself. I'm confident." Then, number 2 is how you become confident when you're shy in the class. So, if a child or someone is scared or shy, because sometimes I'm shy because I don't like going to the front a lot, so I've never been at the front, but I have, and I got a star. So, if you do something, for example, a little girl or someone said, "I'm not confident," or "I'm not strong," or "I'm not good at spelling, writing, reading," and I had it for a long time, and I was thinking it, and then I was in my class and my teacher said, "Come to the front, Maisha," and I said, "No," and I started to cry, and then I thought about it. Next day, I got a bit confident, and do you know why? All them things that were in my head, I pushed away and I put it into the bin. And do you know how you do that? You get a piece of paper. You can do this if you want, or you get everything into your head. So you get a piece of paper. This is what I did, for example. So I got a piece of paper. I did all the bad things, put a line in the middle, did all the good things, and put a line in the middle again. Well, it was already there. So first, I looked at the good side. And was having fun with my friends. People was not saying, you're good at everything. They were saying this to me. Bad side was, they was not playing with me. They were blah, blah, blah. So I got the bad side. I cut it all up. I put it in the bin. Good side, put into my memory again. Now that's number 2. Number 3, if you want to be confident, if there's a book of confidence, read that every single day. Come back from school, on the way to school, even if like break time, lunch, you don't know what to do, you don't like talk to people, it's your first time, read a book. Come on, people, you need to be confident. Now, thank you for listening. Assalamu alaikum.
Hope you enjoyed that. That is Maisha, who's telling you how to be confident. Now follow those rules and trust me, you will always be confident. SubhanAllah, she is so adorable. I saw that video and I thought the viewers have to see this. That if an 8-year-old can have such a mindset, why can't we? We're 30, we're 40, we're 50. Why do we play in the same standard role of, automation of our brain is just going like an autopilot, like wake up, sleep, eat, breakfast, this, go to work, come back. The thinking is just so rigid, and it's like, and if you communicate with certain people to this stage, and I'm so happy now that self-help is such a big subject now that everybody wants to improve themselves. And I feel if we all start improving ourselves, we're going to have a better world. But I'm just saying is, when you speak to people who are in that routine of just waking, eating, sleeping, and when you talk to them, they're like, no, I can't think out of the box. I just need to work and stuff like that. So I'm just like, now Maisha, at such an age of 8, I feel by the time she reaches 20, she's just going to be a full-blown second part of Tony Robbins probably.
Inshallah.
So what is it that you do with her? Like, what is it that makes you, give her this confidence? What is it you do on a daily basis? What advice would you give to mothers to educate their children to have such a strong mindset from such a young age?
Okay. So one of the things that I taught Maisha from a very young age was because she had the eczema. I remember a really significant, after the divorce, after he left us, we went to Umrah. And I wanted to go because I was just so sad at the time and everything was going on. I just wanted to be near Allah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go to Umrah. So I took Maisha with me. And it was one night and she was itching because she doesn't sleep. And she said to me, Amma, she's such a sweet girl. She said, Amma, I'm so sorry that I don't let you sleep.
Oh.
And I felt, some nights I would yell at her because I'm sleep deprived. I know we went through a lot of things. And when she said that, I just felt so guilty and my heart just sank. And I said to her, do you know, Amma, if you hadn't been awake,
you call her Amma?
She was, I call her Amma back.
Why is that?
I don't know. It's just
Does Amma mean mother?
Amma means mother, but it's a counselling technique. If you reflect back what somebody says,
okay.
They feel understood more, and you use the same language.
Okay, so you said to Amma.
So I said, Amma, if you hadn't done that, then I wouldn't have been waking Fajr for the last.
Oh.
And look at the blessings.
Yes.
So what I want to say is, the first thing is teach our children gratitude. I used to say to her...
I've just started that with my daughter. I've created a small jar. And every day when something good happens, I tell her to write a little slip.
Yeah.
And now she writes little things like, I'm so grateful for the chocolate I had today and stuff like that. And I said to her, and she goes, why we do this? I said, by end of the year, we're going to look back and reflect of how much Allah has blessed us with. And we're going to even get more.
Yes.
So she goes, well, with that music, our wishes are going to come true.
Yeah.
I said, that means it's like a genie jar, you could say. It's like you're telling Allah that thank you so much. Yeah. So, like you said, so how do you teach your little girl to practice gratitude? What is your ideal?
It was just throughout it. So when she was ill, there was times where, I would have to change her bed sheets every single night. I would have to bath her. It took me about 3 or 4 hours each night. Redo her bandages. And each time she would cry, I would say to her, Amma, there are people worse in the world. We are well. We're talking to each other. We have our sight. And actually what it does is hardship. Hardship strengthens you.
Yes.
If I hadn't gone through that, I couldn't speak to women. I couldn't know who I am had I not had the contrast.
Yes.
So a lot of people think, I'm going through these hardships in their businesses, in their home lives, in their marriages.
But it's necessary. It's molding you.
Of course. And as long as we can change that story, instead of it being, doom and gloom, and why does Allah, it's not about that. Look how it strengthens you. Allah always wants the best for us. But if we don't see that...
Yeah, it's like the same with Yusuf alayhi salam's story. His own brothers deceived him. They sold him and he turned into a slave. But out of that, he became a king. And they're saying, and there's even a passage where they say he when he left his father, because him and his father had such a beautiful bond. They loved each other so much. But they said the love grew between Hazrat Yaqub alayhi salam and Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam in that time. So, and at the end of it, he pioneered and he became a mayor of Egypt. He became a king of Egypt.
Yeah, he did.
Because he was patient.
Yeah. There's actually a side story to that, which is linking in with this. Yusuf actually went. It's a lesson for all of us. Yusuf actually went to the governor and asked for that position.
Yeah.
And there's a story in that if you know your strengths, so going back to children, teach them their strengths.
Yes.
Let them work to those strengths, and then they can become leaders.
Yes.
Ultimately, we want leaders.
Yes.
And one of the things that came out of this was I actually then was able to produce a gratitude journal for kids out of that, with Maisha helping. And so she's got like her own little business
Oh.
doing that.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. So subhanAllah, like look how Allah,
Yeah,
from one
mashallah.
thing,
Yeah.
and she got to develop that. She's done little cards, and that's her little business that she can now over the years look at, and she directs it, and she says, okay, what can we do? How can we? And we talk about that.
One thing I must ask is, do you not ever have the problem of your children of asking for too many toys? What would you do then if you have a spoiled child? How would you say you see children who are not grateful and not understanding of your situation? They're like, we want.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to parents there?
I suppose in the West we live in an era of want. Find a way for them to earn them. That's the way you do it. So not everything is free, but you can earn it. But what we don't want to do is create the mindset of working for money. So you don't want to give them chores and say, hey, if you do a chore, then I'm gonna, because then all you're doing is psychologically saying, when I grow up, I can work for somebody and I'll get
Yeah.
paid.
Yeah.
So
But what about those children who just don't want to listen? They're like, they wouldn't understand. Or no, parents who feel guilty. What about that? They say, oh, my child wants this, and they're crying for it, and just to make them quiet, they'll buy the toy.
So that's the parent. So they have to understand.
So what would you advise you give? So
Yeah.
you say to them
So
to like
as
how
a
to make their
parent-
child to understand.
I don't think it's about the child.
Do you think so? Oh.
No, it's never about the child. You know, we live in a world where it's so easy to blame. You know, I can say, oh, my business is succeeding with my partner because of my husband, with my child. If
But
my
it's
child
you.
has a tantrum, I'm responsible for how I react.
Yeah.
And it's so important. Prophet ﷺ taught us responsibility before anything. And I hear it a lot where, oh, the child's naughty or the child's not done this. It's never about our children. It's about us. How do we respond? How do we react? You know, or how are we, responsive towards that child? How are we planning ahead? Because if we plant those seeds from the beginning and we have a clear objective, just like in business, we should have that for every aspect of our life, whether
Yes.
that's health, whether that's our
The
children.
main thing is not blaming yourself, but understanding it's all you, isn't it? That's one thing a lot of people struggle
Always
with.
us.
Yeah.
And it's not from a blame perspective.
Yes.
It's a responsibility
Yes, to
perspective.
take responsibility.
Because we have to be conscious and aware and grow. And the only person that we're going to benefit is first of all ourselves, but then our families, our societies, and our world. We're going to answer to Allah for ourselves. We can't go to Allah and say, oh, well, my child played up, and so I can just
Buy her that
yell
thing.
at them. Or we're going to nurture that.
Yeah.
So we have to find ways to say, okay, how can I get this child to earn things?
Yeah.
How can I get them to appreciate things? And like you're doing, just a simple thing like what you've done there is amazing.
Yeah.
I developed the gratitude journal for
Yeah.
kids for that reason.
I tell all my clients to write gratitude journals. That's the first thing I tell them.
Yeah.
Right, you need to appreciate what you got, mate, before we move further away.
Yeah.
And just that mind conditioning over 28 days,
Yeah.
it's a different person.
Raises your vibration. It actually changes the
It just changes the way you think.
Yeah,
and
it's
within 28
proven.
days, they come back to me and they say, I'm actually feeling better. And when I mentioned the situation that they were complaining about, I bring it up, they go, no, it's fine. I was like, wow, it just makes, like you said, it just makes, changes neurons, and it's important, because I feel I practice gratitude as the main point of everything.
Yes.
That is a starting point if you really want to achieve anything. So, what else would you say? What about your other daughter? How is she?
She's great.
How old is she?
She's 5.
Okay.
She's just like gymnast crazy,
Oh, wow.
happy, content. She's just clever. She's just lovely.
So must ask. So like you said, that you prioritize your time and stuff like that. Do you not ever find it hard ever being a single parent?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, it's that.
It must be difficult.
It's, you have like my car breaks down, or one of my children are ill.
Yeah.
I've got calls. I've got a photography shoot. Where do I leave them? My shopping needs doing. I cook every day from scratch, so I don't,
Wow.
because my daughter's
Natural
got her
food,
health needs. I do all of that. So don't get me wrong. It's not that it's not hard. It's just my perspective is
It's manageable.
I want this.
Yeah.
I want this.
You have to
These
to
are my
like it,
children.
yeah.
These are my gift. I want this business, so I'm going to make it work.
Yes.
If I need to get that car fixed, then I do it. There's none of this, oh, I'm going to blame the world and, oh, poor me, poor me. Because once you get to that, how are you going to lead? How are you going to be a leader for your children, for your families, for the community? The moment that, in leadership, when we teach leadership, one of the things when we go into an organization and we look at an organization and they're struggling, it's never about the employees.
Yes.
It's always, we always look at leadership. Because if the leadership is good, the organization will be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
It will be absolutely fine. So it isn't that it's not
So
hard.
in all this, how do you look after yourself? That's my question.
It's,
Do you take time out for yourself to relax? Do you not get stressed out? Obviously, you must. You do have some good days and bad days.
It's funny because the time out where people, this is what people do, and I hate to say it, but we watch TV
Yes,
for
waste time.
how many? I don't have a television,
Oh, wow.
so I've cleared up like a good number of hours in that week. Probably,
Okay, wow.
how many hours do people watch? 5-6 hours
Yeah.
easily. So I
2
don't
hours
have
a day
that.
average.
Yeah, I don't have that. Secondly, I do what I love, and I say this to entrepreneurs so often: do what you love.
You have to have
Find
passion.
that.
Yeah.
I do it every day. I don't need to worry whether I'm getting a break or
Yeah.
not, because I love being with my children. I spend time with them. I love my clients. I adore them. I want
wow.
them to succeed, And
But doesn't it
will
ever
help
burden
them.
you? Like if you get so you never ever feel burdened or stressed out?
I get stressed out during, that time of month sometimes, if I'm really honest. But that's about it.
When, sorry?
That time of month for ladies.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and
Yeah,
I know
we
a
all
lot
do.
of ladies struggle for that.
Yes, yes.
But other than that,
Yeah, sometimes I wish I was a man.
yes,
Then I wouldn't be stopping.
Yeah, and I feel really guilty because I'm
It
like,
would
oh
hold
my
me
gosh.
back. Yeah, I know exactly how you feel. So,
But I
mashallah,
do
like
get stressed. I do.
yeah. So
There are
how? So
times.
you must have bad days. What do you do?
You remind yourself.
How do you cope with the
that
bad days? So say, I don't know. You must. I don't know. As I study a lot of successful people, and I see that they all have this set timetable. Like they'll start early and they routine their day.
Yes.
So, say once your miracle morning, obviously by
Yes.
what is the writer's name right now? But the miracle morning is obviously quite famous. That's what all successful businessmen do. So say that morning you don't do the miracle morning.
Yeah.
Do you have like an awful day? Like, oh my God, my day's all
You
misplanned.
tell yourself you're human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you everybody has days they're ill. And everybody has days that they're going to be
Yeah.
not wanting to do anything.
Yeah.
We're human, and we should have that grace on ourselves, because if we don't show that we're human, how are other people going to learn?
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's about stopping and saying, looking back. Sometimes I think, oh my gosh, I've not done enough. But look back at what you have done.
Yeah.
Just be easy on yourself and say, okay, today is going to be like Sundays is a day that my kids get to choose whatever they want to do with me.
Okay.
And that could be like I end up like looking like very beautiful with makeup all over my face.
Okay.
Or it could be a walk in the park. It could be arts and crafts. But it's something that they get to do. And if something happens in the day, I just say, okay, I've been able to do this, this, and this. It's about the planning. People over plan. They think they can do more than they can. I only have 4 main tasks in a month.
Okay.
4 or 5 main tasks.
Like deadlines or
Yeah,
Okay.
things that I want to achieve to do with each area of the focuses that I've got, and then you just work towards that. And it's so relaxing in your mind. If it's stressful, then your trust is low. This is how I do it, and this is how my mentor taught me. He says, if the trust is low, then the stress is high.
You're trusting yourself.
Trust
Basically.
in Allah.
Oh, trusting yourself.
Trust in Allah. Because don't forget, nothing comes from us.
Yeah, it's true.
So even if something doesn't go right, if you have to say no to somebody and you have to take your kids somewhere, know that Allah is the one that gives you your results. I see so much anxiety. I can only do what I can do. I can show up, I can put the effort in, but the results are from Allah. They're not from me. So why worry?
Yeah.
Why worry if I'm going to make the money? Why worry if I'm going to get the clients? Why worry if my kids are going to turn out okay or not? I'm just doing my best.
There's no point worrying. Just okay.
Trust has to be high, so stress is low.
I love that advice. Before we wrap up, there's one more video that I'd like to show you of Maisha. She is going to tell you 3 ways of how to be happy.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Marsha and I'm 8 years old and today I'm going to give you 3 tips on how you can be happy. Number 1, you can eat what you want. Number 2, spend time with your family. Number 3, if anything makes you sad, don't think about it. And Jazakallah for listening and Assalamu alaikum. Bye! Yeah!
I wish we could all have that kind of excitement that Maisha has. So if you want to be happy, follow those 3 points and you'll always be happy. Before we wrap up, I'd like to ask Nazma Khatun one more important question that I ask each and every guest. What is the one advice that you would give to the audience that they could apply to their life now, that they could make instant changes? What is the one golden advice that you would give?
Gratitude.
Gratitude.
Yeah. Find anything in every single day from the moment you wake up, something to be grateful for.
Okay.
Start off on that foot. Always start off with gratitude.
Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you for watching. And I hope Nazma Khatun's story has changed you. Changed me. Trust me, I am just like in goosebumps already. May Allah bless her and may Allah give her more success. Until next time, thank you for watching the live show with Musart.